Here is a number that should change the way you train for the rest of your life. 0. That is the amount of spinal compression produced by the Bulgarian Split Squat. 0 load on your lumbar discs. 0 grinding on your vertebrae. 0 axial force accumulating in your joints with every single rep. Now compare that to the barbell back squat. Several hundred pounds are pressing directly down through your spine, rep after rep, set after set, year after year. Most women who have trained with a barbell for a decade have the joint damage to prove it, even if they have not connected the dots yet. Here is what nobody tells you. The barbell squat is not the most effective exercise for building glutes. It is not even in the conversation. Research comparing single leg training to bilateral movements consistently shows equivalent or superior glute muscle activation, with significantly less joint stress across all major lower body joints. You are trading the long-term health of your spine for an inferior growth stimulus, and most programs never question that trade. The Bulgarian split squat builds more glute muscle than a barbell squat and does it without touching your spine. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why, and you will have a 4-step progression that takes you from your first shaky bodyweight rep to the most effective lower body exercise you have ever performed. Ancient Greek athletes did not train bilaterally by default. They trained for war and the Olympic Games, and both demanded a body capable of performing explosively, asymmetrically, and under unpredictable loads. A soldier leaping over a defensive wall does not have both feet on the ground. A sprinter driving out of a starting position is entirely on one leg. A wrestler shooting for a takedown is loading one hip in isolation while the other drives and rotates. Greek gymnasia training reflected this. Athletes performed deep unilateral lunges, ran with loaded carries in one hand, and practiced asymmetric jumping movements to develop each leg independently. The Greeks understood something that bilateral training obscures. Your dominant leg will always compensate for your weaker one under a two-legged squat. You can train for years under a barbell and never discover that one glute is doing 70% of the work while the other coasts. Single-leg training was not a modification for injured athletes in ancient Greece. It was the standard, because the physical demands of war and sport did not allow for bilateral compensation. Your weaker leg either developed or it failed you when you needed it most. The Bulgarian split squat is the direct modern replication of that training philosophy. One leg is loaded, one hip hinging, full range of motion through both the quad and the glute, no dominant side hiding behind the other, just honest, independent demand on each leg, every rep. Think about what the barbell back squat actually asks your body to do. You load a bar across your upper back, you descend. Your quads, glutes, and hamstrings produce force to drive you back to standing. It is an effective movement. Nobody is arguing otherwise. But here is what else happens. That bar sits on your spine. The compressive force traveling through your vertebrae is not just the weight of the bar. Once you account for shear forces and the muscle tension required to stabilize the load, your lumbar discs absorb a multiple of that weight on every rep, every set, every session, for years. Do that long enough, and the cumulative load tells a story your joints will eventually confirm. The Bulgarian split squat asks something completely different. Your rear foot rests on a bench, your front leg takes the load. Your spine is upright, carrying nothing but your own torso. The compressive force through your lumbar discs is negligible. And because your rear leg is elevated and your front leg works through a longer arc, your front glute reaches a depth of stretch that a bilateral squat never achieves. The range is longer, the stretch is deeper. And that depth of stretch, as you are about to understand, is precisely where muscle growth begins. The research here is not subtle. Studies comparing training in the lengthened position versus the shortened position consistently show 50 to 100% more hypertrophy when the muscle is loaded at its point of maximum stretch. That is not a marginal difference. That is the difference between a program that works and one that does not. Here is why. A muscle fiber generates maximum force when it is slightly stretched beyond its resting length. This is the point at which actin and myosin filaments overlap optimally, and the mechanical signal to grow is at its peak. This is the length-tension relationship, one of the most consistent findings in muscle physiology. The barbell squat loads your glutes through a moderate range. The bilateral mechanics limit how deep the stretch can go before your lower back compensates or your heels lift. The position compromises the range. The Bulgarian split squat has no such limitation. Your front hip drives forward and down, your rear hip extends fully behind you, your front glute reaches a stretch that most exercises never touch, and it reaches that stretch under load at the exact point where the growth signal fires hardest. This is not just a safer exercise, it is a measurably more effective one, because every rep reaches deeper into the range of motion where hypertrophy actually occurs. The science in one line: train the muscle where it is longest, under the most tension, and you will build more muscle than any other method. That is the Bulgarian Split Squat. Here is the progression. Start exactly where your body is right now. Exercise 1. Bodyweight Bulgarian Split Squat. Stand 2 feet in front of a bench. Place your rear foot on the surface with your laces facing down. Lower your back knee toward the floor slowly, feeling the stretch build through your front quad and deep into your front glute. Front shin stays close to vertical, torso stays upright. Do not let your front knee cave inward. Drive through your front heel to return to standing. 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps per leg. Exercise 2. The slow negative. Add a 4-second lowering phase on every rep. Lower for 4 seconds. Pause 1 second at the bottom. Drive back up under full control. This single change dramatically increases time under tension in the lengthened position. That is where the growth is. 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps per leg. Exercise 3. Dumbbell progression. When you can complete 12 clean reps per leg with the slow negative, add load. A single dumbbell, a filled water jug, any weighted object works. 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps per leg. Exercise 4. Rear foot elevated pause squat. Same setup, but pause a full 2 seconds at the bottom before driving back up. 2 seconds with your glute at maximum stretch, under load. This combines isometric overload with lengthened position loading in every single rep. Earn this variation through the progressions first. 3 sets of 6 per leg. Train these 3 to 4 times per week. Progress in sequence. Do not add load until your form is clean enough that you would film yourself without hesitation. Greek athletes did not train each leg independently because it was fashionable. They trained that way because bilateral compensation was a liability they could not afford. A weak side revealed in training was a weak side corrected before battle. 6 months of consistent Bulgarian split squats progressed through these 4 variations will expose and close every strength imbalance you have accumulated in years of bilateral work. Your weaker glute will have nowhere to hide. Your dominant leg will not be able to carry the session alone. Both sides will be forced to develop independently, at the same pace, through the same range of motion. The result is what the Greeks were building without ever naming it: symmetrical, functional, unbreakable lower body strength. The physique follows the function. It always has. Train both legs honestly, and you will feel the difference inside a month. You will see it clearly inside 3. Drop a comment right now. How many clean reps can you hit per leg with perfect form at body weight? That is your honest starting point. Write it down. You will want to compare it to where you are in 6 weeks.